Number 1, Whispers in the Night. My name is Emily, and I've been working the night shift at St. Mary's Hospital for as long as I can remember. The hospital always seemed different after dark. The sterile white walls that felt reassuring during the day took on a sinister hue beneath the flickering fluorescent lights at night. I'd heard my fair share of hospital worker horror stories, whispered among the nurses and orderlies during our breaks, but nothing could prepare me for what I experienced one fateful night. It started innocently enough, just another quiet night on the ward. I was making my rounds, checking on patients and ensuring everything was in order. Room 313 had been empty for weeks, but tonight, something felt off. As I approached the room, I heard a soft, melodic humming seeping through the closed door. My curiosity piqued. I cautiously pushed it open. Inside, I found an elderly woman lying in the bed, her eyes wide open and fixated on the ceiling. Her bony fingers gripped the bed sheets tightly, and her lips moved in a silent prayer. I blinked, convinced I was seeing things. Room 313 had been vacant, and this patient wasn't on my list. I approached her cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. "Ma'am, are you lost? How did you get in here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned her head slowly, her eyes hollow and devoid of emotion. "They're coming," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "They're coming for us all." Chills ran down my spine as I tried to make sense of her words. Before I could ask her anything else, the lights in the room flickered and then died, plunging us into darkness. Panic set in as I fumbled for my flashlight, my hands trembling. The woman's grip on the sheets tightened, and she started to scream, her voice echoing through the empty corridor. I fled the room, my heart racing, and tried to radio for help, but my voice seemed to get lost in the void. As I made my way down the dimly lit hallway, I heard whispers, faint, incomprehensible voices that seemed to come from all directions. I quickened my pace, desperate to escape the eerie cacophony that surrounded me. I reached the nurse's station, hoping to find solace in the presence of my colleagues. But the station was empty, the computers unmanned, and the eerie silence that greeted me sent shivers down my spine. I picked up the phone and dialed 911, praying for a lifeline out of this nightmare. But the line was dead, leaving me truly alone in the darkness. I continued my frantic journey through the hospital, the whispers growing louder and more insistent with every step. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on grotesque forms that seemed to mock my fear. I stumbled upon the hospital morgue, its heavy door ajar. Against my better judgment, I pushed it open, hoping to find anything that could help me make sense of the madness. The room was icy cold, and the air was thick with the scent of formaldehyde. Drawers lined the walls, and I couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching me. As I approached one of the drawers, it slid open on its own, revealing a body covered in a white sheet. I took a hesitant step back, my breath catching in my throat. The sheet shifted, and a pale hand emerged, fingers curling around the edge as if seeking escape. I let out a strangled scream and turned to run, but the door slammed shut, trapping me inside. The whispers reached a crescendo, forming words that burrowed into my mind like 1,000 needles. "You can't escape. We're always here, waiting." I sank to the cold floor, tears streaming down my face as I realized the truth. The hospital was haunted, not by ordinary ghosts, but by something far more sinister. I was just another hapless victim, ensnared in a nightmare from which there was no waking. And as the whispers grew louder, drowning out my sanity, I knew I was lost. Forever.
Number 2. The Haunting of Ward 13. My name is Daniel, and I used to be a nurse at Crescent Hill Hospital. There was one ward that everyone avoided, Ward 13. The place had a reputation, and the hospital staff whispered stories about it like ghostly confessions in the dead of night. But curiosity got the best of me, and one evening I decided to investigate. The moment I stepped into Ward 13, an icy chill settled over me. The air seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. Ignoring the unease crawling up my spine, I pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind the legends. The ward was empty, or so it seemed. As I walked down the narrow corridor, the flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. I heard faint whispers like distant echoes of conversations long past. My footsteps echoed in the empty silence, the sound amplified by the emptiness of the ward. A door at the far end of the corridor creaked open, revealing a patient's room. Against my better judgment, I entered. The room was freezing, the windows rattling in their frames as if in protest against the encroaching darkness. I glanced around and froze. In the corner of the room, a figure stood, its back to me. It was a little girl no older than 7 with long, unkempt hair that hung like a curtain, obscuring her face. "Hello," I stammered, my voice barely audible. The girl turned slowly, her hair parting to reveal hollow eyes that glowed with an unnatural light. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice a haunting whisper that sent shivers down my spine. I'm just trying to understand," I replied, my heart pounding in my chest. "They never understand," she said, her voice a mournful lament. "They come and go, but they never understand." "Understand what?" I asked, my voice catching in my throat. "The pain," she replied, "the suffering, fear. It lingers, trapped within these walls." As she spoke, the room seemed to come alive with ethereal images, the flicker of a dying patient's heartbeat on a monitor, the anguished cries of families losing their loved ones, the desperation of doctors and nurses trying in vain to save a life. The walls pulsed with a dark energy, each heartbeat echoing the agony of the souls that had passed through Ward 13. I stumbled back, overwhelmed by the intensity of the emotions crashing over me. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I'm so sorry for whatever happened here." The girl's eyes softened, and for a moment I saw a glimmer of humanity within them. "Help us," she pleaded. "Help us find peace." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "I will," I promised, my words a solemn vow. With that, the room fell silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting like a heavy fog. The girl's form blurred and dissipated, leaving behind an empty room devoid of the supernatural presence that had filled it moments before. From that day on, I dedicated myself to uncovering the secrets of Ward 13. I delved into the hospital's archives, piecing together the stories of the patients who had lived and died within its walls. I organized memorial services honoring the memories of those who had been forgotten, and gradually the whispers ceased and the shadows retreated. Ward 13 became just another part of the hospital, its dark past laid to rest by the compassion of those who refused to forget. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I still hear the faintest echo of a whisper, a reminder of the souls that had once haunted Crescent Hill Hospital. And I am grateful for the opportunity to have brought them peace, to have given them the understanding they so desperately sought.
Number 3. The Night Terrors of Mercy Falls.
I'm Evelyn, a nurse at Mercy Falls Psychiatric Hospital, a place that holds secrets darker than the shadows it houses. Patients came and went, their stories leaving behind an indelible mark on the walls, echoing with the pain of shattered minds. One night, the power went out. Emergency lights flickered, casting unsettling glows across the hallway. I ventured into the dimness, armed with a flashlight, my steps muffled by the thick silence that clung to the air like a suffocating fog. As I passed room 237, A shiver ran down my spine. It was a room with a history, a room where nightmares became real. I heard a soft sobbing from within, and against my better judgment, I pushed the door ajar. The room was freezing, and the air smelled of decay. There, in the corner, sat a young girl, her hair disheveled, and her eyes hollow voids of terror. "He's coming," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind that howled outside. "Who's coming?" I asked, my voice quivering. "The man in the shadows," she replied, her eyes widening with fear. "He visits us when the lights go out. He whispers nightmares into our ears." I tried to reassure her, but before I could utter another word, the room plunged into darkness. The emergency lights died, leaving us in pitch blackness. My flashlight flickered and died, leaving me defenseless against the encroaching night. From the darkness emerged a voice, a low guttural whisper that crawled under my skin. "You can't save them," it hissed. "They belong to me." A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the feeble candle I had managed to light. I felt a presence behind me, a breath against my neck that sent a shockwave of terror through my body. I turned, my eyes widening in horror. In the feeble light of a distant street lamp, I saw him, the man in the shadows. His features were obscured, hidden beneath a tattered cloak that seemed to blend with the darkness around him. His eyes, though, glowed with a malevolent light, fixated on me with an intensity that froze my blood. I stumbled backward, my mind a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. The room seemed to twist and contort, its walls closing in on me. I ran blindly through the labyrinthine corridors of Mercy Falls, the laughter of the man in the shadows echoing in my ears. I found myself in the hospital's basement, a place of old pipes and forgotten supplies. The air was thick with the scent of dampness and decay. As I searched for an exit, I heard the soft patter of footsteps behind me. I turned, my heart pounding, and there he was, the man in the shadows, his eyes aflame with madness. "You can't escape," he said, his voice a cacophony of whispers that reverberated through the walls. "You're mine now." I ran, my lungs burning, my legs propelled by sheer terror. I burst through the basement door and into the night, gasping for breath. The hospital loomed behind me, its windows dark voids that seemed to stare into my soul. I never went back to Mercy Falls after that night. The hospital was shut down, its doors forever sealed to the world. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear the whispers of the man in the shadows, a chilling reminder of the night I came face to face with true horror.